Hey viewers, my name's Cara. Today I want to talk about the idea in magical community that we're not supposed to pay for magic. Specifically, I want to talk about how that seems to have gone from people not charging for initiation into a coven or other working group to people thinking that that means people teaching any magic in classes, workshops, shouldn't be charging for it or shouldn't be charging too much. This is somewhat related to the idea that you shouldn't buy your own tools, but that's another video entirely, and I would like to make that video because I'd like to update the one that I made years ago. But today, in this video, we're talking about this money myth in modern paganism. I don't really know what to call it. The magic money myth, the pagan money myth. Generally, it's accepted that we buy books to learn from. We accept that items require money to acquire. So why is there resistance to people being paid for their work that isn't physical objects? I want to acknowledge right at the top here that there are actually a lot of things that go into this. There's a lot of things within capitalism that affect how much money we have to spend separately from whether or not we think something is actually worth it, separate from whether a teacher has the experience, and separate from this sort of ethical idea within magical community or within spiritual community that we're just not supposed to pay for a thing. I made notes for this video because I was really concerned with hitting all of the points like I usually am, and I want to take a step back and allow that I will not cover every aspect of this issue. There are so many things tied into this. So I'm going to try to focus on specific things that have come up in my experience, but just want to acknowledge there's always going to be more to it. So that said, let's get into it. I think part of it comes from this idea that we shouldn't pay for magic. This is something that I have heard for years, that I read when I was first learning about paganism and witchcraft, and it has continued to come up here and there in my experience over the years. So that's the focus of this particular video / blog post. I might post the notes from this as a blog. But I want to mention a couple of other things just to put them out there that might also play a role in this. So another reason someone might hesitate to pay someone for classes, for example, services rather than goods, might be that it can sometimes be hard to know how much someone knows or what their experience or ability to teach it is, because those are separate skill sets. There's knowing the thing, and then there's being able to teach the thing to other people. Now, I have a whole other rant about certifications versus the many other ways that people can learn and showcase their skills. That's not the topic of this video either, but I think it's worth mentioning that not knowing someone's skill or experience level might be a cause for hesitation, which is understandable. And there are many ways that we can address that in other videos and posts in the future. Another theme that I can think of around this is that we don't like the way that other religions, perhaps ones that we grew up in or grew up around, the way that they rely on money and ask for money, so we don't want to be like them. There's also the overall idea that money is inherently evil and people who are spiritual shouldn't want to have it. All of these ideas exist in the society that I grew up in, and so whether or not I personally adhere to those beliefs, I am aware of them, and they definitely affect the way that I go about this sort of thing. I have to actively fight against those impulses and things that I was taught. But the truth is, we're living under capitalism, and we all have to pay to eat and have a place to live and enjoy life. Some communities do have barter and trade systems, which is really awesome, but that's not workable for every group or everyone's life circumstances. So bearing in mind that the system most of us currently live in, I am making an assumption, so I'll just say most of us currently live in a system that is set up where we need money to get the other things that we need to survive. So now let's focus on the don't pay for magic concept. And I will talk more in a little bit about like what even is the magic in that case, like specifically what do people think they're talking about there? But first, I want to say my understanding is that this originated with folks talking about how you shouldn't be asked to pay for magical training when seeking to join a coven, a grove, or a similar magical practice, spiritual worship group. So let's say that I'm the leader of a coven for this example. I think that that's language that most people understand around like a spiritual group of witches. That term does have specific meanings to me. A lot of people assume that I'm talking about covens when I think I'm talking about something else, but let's just say coven for this example. Let's say I'm the leader of a coven. This issue would look like me saying, okay, well, if you want to join my coven, just pay this much money and you're in. Not, okay, come to this many rituals and read this book and you're going to practice this and we're going to do this for this many times and we're going to see how your experience is and how you progress and how you work with the group and we'll see if it's a right fit, right? Instead of that, this issue would look like just saying, yeah, just pay this amount and you're in. That is not how most groups like things to work. It doesn't feel right. It means that only people who can afford to pay can join. It also means that you're buying your way into group membership without having to do anything actually related to the spiritual practices. So all of this feels like not how I would want it to go. I want to know that initiation, in the sense of joining a group like that, gaining group membership, actually signifies something sincere about your dedication to practice, not how much money you're able to spend on it. This is different from, for example, if I offer a weekend class at a local shop or a workshop at an event and there is an attendance price being charged for that. You're buying a ticket, you're signing up, you're paying for registration. Taking a class or a workshop and learning some skills is not the same as personal training with the intention of joining my private group practice through eventually seeking to be initiated as a member in that group, right? Taking a workshop is totally different from that. So while I would not expect someone to pay to join my coven, I do expect to be paid something when I teach a class or a workshop, unless I have agreed to do so on a volunteer basis for an event. For example, public pagan pride events. I have done things at many of those over the years. Most of the time, they may be paying certain guest presenters or performers an appearance fee, but most others are there as volunteers. I just think it's something that not everybody knows about. When you go to an event and you look around who's presenting, you might not know who's being paid and who isn't. You might assume everyone is volunteer, or you might assume everyone is being paid, and that does make a difference. I have never been paid to do one of those things, but I was once invited to travel to be the guest speaker at an event, and my travel was covered. So I did not receive any money at the end of it, but it did not cost me anything to go there. But even at those types of events, there are usually booths with people selling their wares. There are vendors, and vendors have usually paid for a spot to be there, and they expect to make that money back by people buying their stuff at the event. People come to events like this with money ready to spend at the vending booths, ready to buy some cool stuff. But I don't usually see tip jars at the workshop tents for the presenters. It seems that we don't expect to pay those people, unless they are also set up with a merch booth at the event, in which case we're back to buying items. We're not paying those people for the work that they've done to share their experience in their workshop. We're paying for their t-shirts, right? And that is a thing that some events have done. When I have spoken at events, I have been offered either a discount on a vending table spot, or I've been offered a free vending spot. But it's like, I'm here to teach a class, I don't have merch to sell, so there just wasn't an option for me to make money from that, because the only thing that is set up with an expectation is to buy items. I don't honestly remember if I ended up having a tip jar at that event, because I do remember talking about this, but anyway. And there could be a number of reasons for this difference in expectation based on the event, the location, so many things. The intention of the event, is it a fundraising event for a specific thing that people are volunteering their time because the focus is really on fundraising for the organization? Stuff like that. So there's a lot more we could get into with that again is not the focus of this video, but I want to acknowledge that it all connects back into that point. It's all interwoven. Many factors could be at play at once. But why do some people continue to think that we shouldn't be paying for magic? If we look at folklore, this begins to make even less sense when you think about tales of going into the woods to seek the aid of the local witch or a deity or a forest spirit or what have you. Sure, the tales don't usually say to bring your debit card or first make sure you stop off at the ATM. but they do mostly include some type of payment or exchange. Either the main character is expected to bring something for the entity whose help they're seeking, such as food, or they will be expected to do some type of work for that being in exchange for their help. So this idea probably doesn't originate with folklore, even if people try to say it's some old, even ancient concept, because in myths and folklore, people were definitely expected to make some kind of payment or exchange. When it comes to work exchange, there are communities who do offer this type of thing in real life. In the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft that I'm a part of, some communities have arranged to offer scholarships or work exchange positions. I also know traditional Wiccan covens and druid groves where folks aren't expected to pay like regular currency, but are expected to bring food, to share in the gathering of supplies, and so on. So maybe you don't pay the high priestess or the ritual team in the case of reclaiming maybe. Maybe you're not paying them $20 to get admitted to the ritual, but you do volunteer to bake some gluten-free vegan baked goods. And you're buying all the ingredients yourself, and then you're putting in the time to do it. Or you sign up to provide the 24 candles and their holders that everybody's gonna use to do some candle magic together. Or you're gonna bring a lighter or matches. At some point, those things also cost money, even if, like me, you have a stash of candles ready and waiting and you didn't need to buy them just now. Those are things that somebody spent money on at some point, but you are bringing in exchange. In other folk tales and stories, the seeker is expected to bring an item of personal value to show their sincerity and great need. They're expected to make some sacrifice of something that means a lot to them, like their wedding ring, or something that their survival depends on, like making a gift of their best sheep. For someone else, it might be the most fine and expensive hair bow they own, whatever it is for the person in question. It's something that means a great deal for them to give up. Sometimes it's something you made and spent hours making, like 12 shirts woven from nettles. If you translate that into our lives today, one thing that can mean a lot to give up, has great value, for many means survival, and that typically takes us many hours to make, is money. And in many cases, that is more practical to exchange today, since there are so many ways that we can do that now. And it means the person receiving it can use it to get whatever they need. If I need to pay rent and you want to exchange candles, that's not going to help me as much. Aside from that, though, I'm probably excited to trade candles. The Reclaiming Principles of Unity, which is a living document that has been updated before and will be again, mentions that one thing we strive to do is balance financial accessibility with the ability to fairly compensate people for their labor. It's not a perfect system, but we try, and I find that people in reclaiming don't assume that folks will not be paid, as I have experienced in many other wider pan-pagan spaces. Pan-pagan in this case meaning all of the many varied paths that fall under paganism, not any one specific type. As someone who has been poor my whole life, I know what it's like to find something worth it and simply not be able to afford it. So I do like the model of using a sliding scale to allow some people a better chance at access. I have also volunteered many hours of my time over the years teaching and presenting things at events, even some events that I paid to attend to then present something. And I've created a ton of free content online for anyone to access. So when it comes to charging for my offerings and services, I spend a lot of time deciding on what will help me survive and at least somewhat accounts for the years of practice and experience I've gathered and the time it takes to put the thing together, while offering broader options for those who, like me, couldn't afford to do it otherwise. I have also relied on that type of thing when taking workshops and classes or joining offerings led by other people. I have benefited from the generosity of a sliding scale. But it's all about this balance. We need to pay the bills while also trying to make things fairly accessible. The last big point I've been thinking about that I want to cover in this video today is, what do people even mean when they say not to pay for magic? What is the magic exactly? Right now, I don't run a coven, per se. I am a community leader, and that is something I do for free. I've also been a mentor, and that was done with no monetary exchange, but there was energetic exchange, there was work exchange. Each person involved was putting in work that takes hours and a lot of energy and effort. And I'm sure that one day I'll be doing that type of thing again. And I continue to make videos for free here on YouTube, which take hours and hours to put together, as well as ones that are available as bonuses to my monthly supporters. And I'm getting back into offering things like classes online and readings online. But I've also been teaching classes and workshops in person and online for several years now, outside of this audience, but within my tradition. When I teach classes and offer workshops or presentations, that is something I charge for. Often, but not always, depending on the event, the situation, and so on, as previously mentioned. I don't do spells for people, so I don't accept money to do magic for anyone. But I do charge for classes where I help practitioners learn how to do magic for themselves. And I do see a significant difference there. You are paying to learn a skill from an experienced practitioner, both experienced in the practice and in teaching it, which is a separate skill set. Not paying to have someone do magic for you. Some people do charge for that, and it's totally up to you whether you want to pay someone to do that type of thing. I don't offer that for various reasons. I would rather teach you how to do it yourself and be there to help you create the spell or ritual to your needs, but I will not do it for you. And I won't guarantee whether it will work or not, because there are so many other factors involved when it comes to actually doing magic. And I think that's a big part of why the focus better belongs on learning the skills and acquiring info, and not on the results or the magic itself. So when people say you shouldn't pay for magic, what do they mean? Because no one is paying me to do magic for them. No one is paying me for my magic. If I want to do a spell on behalf of anyone, like a friend of mine, that is an arrangement that we make between friends, and we do that for free in support of one another, because we know and trust one another and each other's skills, and that we have each other's best intentions at heart, and that we are working with the other person's intention and supporting them. But again, that is a completely different thing in my mind from offering a class or a workshop and people paying to attend that class, to hear what I have to say, to learn something, to get some resources, and then you go off and do the magic yourself. You're not paying me for magic in that case. You're paying me to teach you about magic. And we might do some stuff in that class. I might lead a grounding. I might lead you in a trance. Are you paying me for the magic that occurred in that? No, I don't think so. Because there is absolutely no way that I can guarantee what sort of magical experience anyone has. I can guarantee that I will lead you in a trance, or in a grounding exercise, or any other type of exercise like that, but the magic that happens is up to you doing the thing. So I find this whole concept very interesting, but since I am doing things like classes and readings online again, I am coming up against this idea of charging for magic, and that there are still a lot of people who believe that we shouldn't be. In reclaiming, I haven't come across this because I think that it is much more widely accepted that people need to be paid for their work. People need to be compensated for the time and experience that we have and that we have put years and money into gathering. I have paid to go to classes to get the experience that I have to then pass on to other folks. I definitely don't feel that I encounter this as often anymore as I used to a decade ago, but I'm also in different spaces now. I'm in different spaces online. I'm spending a lot more time in person within my tradition where this is a more accepted thing. So it's like when it comes up, I forget that people still have this misunderstanding, that they still have this confusion, or that some people are still reading older books that say this type of thing, and there's no nuance about what specifically that means. So people start thinking it means you can't buy magical supplies, which again, we'll do another video about that, about the actual physical items piece. But also, I have encountered, I remember years ago, in an area where I was trying to get into doing classes regularly, there was already kind of a struggle to get enough people signed up for people to feel like it was worth putting on this class, having me come out to do this class. Around that same time, there was another business in the area that started up and began actively telling people that anyone charging more than $5 for a class, $5 US, anybody charging more than that was ripping you off and you shouldn't be paying them that. Around the same time that I was trying to get into doing classes in the area that averaged $25 to $35, and other people were charging similar or more depending on what other work they had done. I don't think a lot of people bought into that because I did see plenty of people happily pay that much or more for tickets to go see someone speak about their area of knowledge and experience, and then also buy merch from them. So I did see plenty of people still very happy to spend money doing those types of things. But in the specific area that it was in, nobody was signing up for classes. And there also happened to be people in that area actively telling people to distrust anyone charging more than $5. And I can't help but think those things might have been related. It may have had an impact on people's willingness to show up for classes. It may not have, I don't know. And I haven't kept in touch. I haven't followed along with what's been going on with the folks who were saying that at the time. I certainly hope that they realized that charging $5 would not help them pay their bills either, let alone help any of the rest of us. But certainly at the time it was confusing, at the very least. Didn't really know where it was coming from, wasn't really sure what the motivation was, but especially on top of there already being this idea in the wider world of magic and resources that still say this. So it's worth being aware of and knowing that you don't have to buy into it. Unclear whether that pun was intended. And that's just one example, and that's the only time that has really happened in that sort of explicit of a way in my experience. And it was years ago, but I don't know, people could still be saying this type of thing, and it does have a real impact when it does come up. Certainly far more often I hear people ask about this general idea of, I thought we weren't supposed to pay for magic, or I thought I couldn't buy this or that, and isn't that wrong? Why are you charging for this thing when we're not supposed to pay for magic? That has come up much more. So given that I am currently promoting an online course and my online tarot and oracle readings, it came up. I thought I would do a video about it. The link to my new website is in the description. I have a domain name and everything. It's very shiny, caramiawitch.com, and you can get readings from me on there right now. I'm also promoting a course, which I will make a separate video about. If you're watching this video far into the future, that particular course is probably not running, but I will be doing it again in the future, so check out the website to see what is happening now at the time that you happen to be watching this video. Links will be in the description to the website, that information, and also how you can become a monthly supporter and join us in the Woodland, which is my private Discord community for Patreon and Ko-fi supporters. My Patreon supporters have been supporting the videos on this channel for years, and Ko-fi is now also an additional option for one-time or recurring support. It does very much make a difference in my ability to live and continue to do these things, and you know what else does? Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and like this video. Subscribing and liking are free, so we love that. Thank you very much for watching and or listening to this video. I will see you next time, which will probably be later this month. I am promoting stuff this month, so I've got extra videos coming. I wouldn't get too used to it. We're not doing 3+ videos a month around here these days. But I should see you very soon. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.